Today I'm glad to share my work, GhostTalk, Interactive Attack on Smartphone Voice Systems through Powerline. And it's a collaboration with my lab mate Hanqing Guo and my advisor Dr. Qiben Yan. So let's get started. First, let me briefly introduce voice assistants. Usually we use our voice assistants to remotely control our smartphone, like send a message or make a phone call. And at the same time, we also use our smartphone to save some privacy information, like the contact phone number or your address and even your current location. And all this privacy information can be also answered by your voice assistants. There are already many existing voice assistant attacks targeting these voice assistants. For example, replay attacks and inaudible voice commands. But all these attacks, they are facing several challenges. The first one is that they are vulnerable to environmental noise. And the second one is that all of these attacks, they require prior knowledge about the user's voice. Otherwise, they cannot activate the voice assistant. And the third challenge is that these attacks, they are hard to achieve interactive attack. Like if they mute the smartphone and they cannot get the feedback from the smartphone. But if they don't mute the smartphone, and then this response from the voice assistant can make the victims be aware of this attack. So here comes the first question: how do we address this problem? And in this work, we try to explore the feasibility of launching inaudible voice command attack by some other medium besides over the air. And we noticed that smartphone manufacturers, including the iPhones and Samsung, they already removed the headphone jack and combined the audio signal transmission functions within this charging port, which means that for both the Lightning port for iPhones and the USB-C ports for the Android phones, they both support charging and audio signal transmission functions at the same time. So therefore, it is possible to inject and eavesdrop audio signals through these charging ports. Furthermore, we find out that some commercial adapters, they are designed for using headphones while charging. And different from the standard charging cables, the microchip in the adapter, it enables audio signal transmission. And then we disassemble the adapter, and we can see there are audio cables here, including microphone and ground and speaker, and also charging cables here. So if some attackers, they can replace the standard charging cable with this malicious adapter cable, and they can launch a new attack by sending some inaudible voice command by manipulating and monitoring the electric signals on the microphone and speaker cables. Then we want to test the feasibility of this new attack. First, we modulate an audio like "Hey Siri" and as an electric signal and inject this signal through the microphone cable. Then we can get an audio input from the smartphone, and we can find out that this audio input waveform match the electric signal. And conversely, we use the smartphone to play a spoken word password, and then we monitor the voltage difference on the speaker cable. So we can also find out that this voltage waveform is same as the audio waveform. In this way, we prove the feasibility of this new attack. Also, we noticed that it is practical to replace the charging cable in some shared power banks to launch this new attack. The attackers, they only need to rent and modify the power bank, and the next user will become the victim of such a new attack. And we named this new attack GhostTalk since it's inaudible and interactive. And here is an example of GhostTalk attack. Like in a shopping mall, the user runs out of the smartphone battery, and he uses a shared power bank to charge his smartphone. But unfortunately, this power bank is malicious. And then the attacker, the remote attacker, he can remotely inject and eavesdrop audio signals through the charging port. For example, he can ask where is the address of this victim, and after he gets the feedback, he can ask the voice assistant to open the door for him. Here, we give the GhostTalk attack system design. As we discussed in previous slides, there are three main challenges for existing inaudible voice commands. The first one is the robustness in noisy environments. But for GhostTalk, the signal is transmitted over the cable. Therefore, the external noise has no impact on the electric signal, and the attack it can maintain high performance in noisy environments. And the second, to achieve interactivity, we add two resistance to emulate the presence of a headphone. When the smartphone detects this fake headphone, and it will not play audio through the loudspeaker, but from this fake headphone, and then we can inject modulated audio signal to the microphone cable and eavesdrop audio signal from these speaker cables. And third, the key challenge is that since sometimes we don't know the user's voice, and we need to bypass the voice recognition system. And fortunately, we noticed that when we keep pressing the button on the headphone, it will activate the voice assistant without any authenticated voice. And inspired by this idea, we add a MOSFET between the microphone and ground to simulate such a fake press button. And if the attacker, he can remotely control the MOSFET to awake the voice assistant, and he can inject any voice command without the user's voice. And more details can be found in our paper. As a result, GhostTalk has many new attack scenarios. First is that the attacker can ask the voice assistant about the user's privacy, like the name and contact information. And second, once the attacker obtains this privacy information, he can launch ghost phone call. In this phone call, he can even talk with the victim's contact with some synthetic voice. And third one is that GhostTalk, it can hack the verification code. Like if the attacker, he knows the phone number and he can log in some accounts by this phone number, and he can ask the server send the verification code through like a phone call, and he can eavesdrop this verification code to hack the user's accounts. However, sometimes the users, they do not use shared power rank. Here comes another question. What if attackers cannot modify the charging cable? Can we launch some attacks through standard charging cables? For example, in hotels and airports, the users, they charge their smartphones through these public USB charging ports. And is it possible to launch any attacks through these USB ports? In our experiment, we find that when the smartphone battery is already charged to a high level, and the charging current shows some pattern related to the audio signal played by the smartphone loudspeakers. And to validate the cause of this Z channel, we did some simple experiments. Like first, we use an iPhone 10 with two speakers, like the top speaker and bottom speaker, and we play a chirp signal through the bottom speaker and the top speaker, respectively. Then we stop playing and shut off the smartphone, and from the spectrogram, we can see that for bottom speaker and top speaker, the leaked audio signals, they have the same strength. And then when we stop playing, the audio signal pattern disappears, but the noise is still there because other firmware is also consuming the charging power. And finally, when we turn off the smartphone, the noise disappears as well, which means that the phenomenon is definitely caused by the power consumption Z channel. Here, we introduce GhostTalk-SC attack, where SC stands for standard cable. And different from GhostTalk attack, GhostTalk-SC, it can eavesdrop audio signal while users are charging with some standard charging cables. The attacker, he can hide a small ADC chip in the USB charging port and analyze the current signal here. But since the extracted audio signal is too noisy and human ears cannot distinguish them, So to address this issue, we use a CNN model to recognize some sensitive information, like spoken digits to hack password, SSN number, or some verification code. And basically, we use STFT to get a spectrogram image and denoise it as a grayscale image. And it will work as the CNN input. And this neural network the architecture is inspired by AlexNet, and we train it by some public spoken digit dataset. And finally, the model will output the prediction of these spoken digits. Next, we will evaluate our attacks. And our attack hardware, they are all very small-sized devices, and all of them are cheap. The overall cost of this attack system is less than $20. And we launched this attack on 9 different smartphones. And from this result table, we can see that GhostTalk attack, it can achieve both injection and eavesdropping on all victim smartphones without any prior knowledge about the user's voice. And for all these victim smartphones, the attack success rate are 100% since our attack directly inject electric signals into the smartphone. And next, we do some user study to test whether human ears can distinguish natural speech and injected speech. In this way, we recruit 20 listeners, and each of them will listen to the natural speech and the injected speech samples with the same content. Then they need to select whether these samples can be distinguished or not. And if they can be distinguished, they should pick out which one is the injected speech. And from this result, we can see only 15% of answers are correct, which means that our injected audio can spoof human ears. And we also test GhostTalk robustness for liveness detection models. And we can see from this figure, when dealing with some replay attack samples, these liveness detection models, they all maintain low error rate. However, for GhostTalk attack, they fail to detect injected signals since the audio is not played with a loudspeaker but from the electric signal. And moreover, we can adjust the GhostTalk injection frequency to better spoof these models. Then we evaluate the robustness in noisy environments. We compare the injection attack with replay attack. And in noisy environments, replay attack failed to work, but GhostTalk can still keep high attack success rate. And similarly, in noisy environments, audio signals from GhostTalk eavesdropping are still clear as well. And next, we evaluate GhostTalk-SC attack performance. And we launched the attack on the same smartphones as GhostTalk. And for most of smartphones, the recognition accuracy is pretty high. But the only exception is Poco phone from Xiaomi. One possible reason is that its power consumption from other firmware is too high, and we cannot extract any clear audio signal from it. Also, we test GhostTalk-SC performance under different volume settings. The first figure shows the spectrogram of original word 9, and the second figure is what we recovered from the charging current with the highest volume, level 16. Which is very close to the original one. But if we turn down the volume to level 12, the quality will degrade. And for lower volume level, like level 8, only a few patterns remain. So for 3 different models of smartphones, we find that loudspeaker volume and classification accuracy, they are positively correlated. And finally, we test GhostTalk-SC robustness in noisy environments. Similarly, since the noise cannot disturb the power consumption set channel, or attack GhostTalk-SC, it can also maintain high accuracy even in extremely noisy environments. And here is a short demo video of our attack. So, sorry, cannot play the audio, but this part is the background noise is very strong, and we can still inject some voice command through the charging cable. And also, we can launch the ghost phone call like this. First, I use the voice assistant to make a phone call, and if the other user, he answers this phone call, and I can inject any audio signal to talk with him. And here we give some countermeasures. For GhostTalk, users can disable the voice assistant activation by headphone to defend this attack. And for some phones, they can give a notification when it connects a headphone, and it will help the user to detect such GhostTalk attack. And for GhostTalk-SC attack, the users can stop charging after reaching high battery level to protect your privacy. And also, as a discussion, we find that when users are charging the screen, the GhostTalk-SC performance may degrade since screen touching will cause more power consumption, but we can still recognize the pattern between each screen touching. And here is the conclusion. First, GhostTalk is the first interactive and inaudible voice command targeting voice assistants without any prior knowledge about the user's voice. And second, we can use GhostTalk-SC attack to help us eavesdrop some sensitive information from the smartphone loudspeaker set channel signals. And third one is that we test our attack on 9 different smartphones, and all of them achieve high performance. So I think it can help us to better defend such attack in our daily life. And this is our attack system website. Thanks for listening, and I'm ready to answer any questions.